Welcome to CONEXEC, a global leadership platform for construction executives. This podcast is delivered weekly, featuring construction executives each week. I interview executives from around the globe on this podcast, and the focus is for current and aspiring executives to learn about some of the concepts executives deal with, including overcoming adversity, challenges, and successes. So in each podcast, we'll discuss core focus, the history of the company, significant events, and so on and so forth. Now, today I have Blake Roberts, and Blake is a friend, and I say that very loosely. But he's a friend, and he started a company, KBR, correct, Blake?
Yep, KBR Solutions Group.
So rather than me going through and introducing yourself and tell us your history, why don't you kind of go back and tell us how you were a basketball star and all that stuff. So take it all the way back to where you grew up, and we're interested to hear about that.
Yeah. So I appreciate you having me on the podcast. It's something that's it's pretty interesting. I listen to several different podcasts actually ever since I started my company. So I think they're a great thing. But like you said, my company's KBR Solutions Group. We're based out of Mount Vernon, Kentucky, Rockcastle County. I grew up here, born and raised, and I'm the black sheep of my family anyways. Most of those they're all teachers, principals. And so I kind of veered off that path and went into construction. It was kind of odd. Actually, while I was at EKU, I was in the pre-dentistry program, and actually they had mentioned a man by the name of Scott Audius, and they told me to go talk to him. So, and that's how me and you met that very first day. And little did I know that meeting you would change my entire life and entire goals. So, just coming from a small town and trying to, go to college and complete and do something and run my own company is kind of how, I've always wanted to do, aspired to do. And, you were definitely one of those people that helped me do that. So that's kind of a little bit of my background there. Just starting out in a small town and having a goal and just kind of meeting you and then the construction world took over, I guess.
So what did and I know you won't want to talk about this, but I'm going to push you to talk about it. Tell me, you're a very competitive person, and so being a competitive person comes from somewhere. And I know what that means, where you got that competition from, that competition mindset. Why don't you talk about that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess it was 4 years old. Here in Rockcastle, we're big on sports. I dove into sports from baseball, basketball, football, initially all through Pee Wee, growing up, junior pro, into middle school. And then once I got into high school, I kind of dropped out of the baseball and football scene. I had an opportunity. The coaches were telling me that I had an opportunity maybe to have a scholarship to play basketball. So I turned my focus onto that, and really that's some of the key fundamentals. The sports in Rockcastle County, I definitely give that a lot of credit to where I am now, just because it taught me how to be a team player, how to be a leader, and not only to be a leader, but to focus on my skills and to focus to make myself better, but at the same time to make everyone else around me as or the best person that they can be on a team, and vice versa. And so, I learned that if you get some really good people together on a team, that they feed off of each other, and it really makes everyone better, makes the team better, or the company better. So, that's really where my competitive edge came from. I know I'm not always going to win, but I'm always going to try. So So that's really where all that came from. And playing in college, I got to play in college for a little bit, and before I transferred to EKU. So like I said, that's mainly where all my competitiveness came from.
Well, I joke with you about that, but seeing you on the basketball court, I realize how short I actually am. So, and old, I should say. So, but
Well,
so talk to me about KBR Solutions, and what does KBR
yeah.
stand for?
Well, actually, it's just our initials. It's my wife. Her name's Kristen, so that's where the K comes from. So it's Kristen Blake Roberts Solutions Group. I had to throw her in there. She was actually the one that when I told her about construction management, she was the one that told me. She said, I think that's a great thing. And then that's when I made the switch full time. She was a big advocate in that. But the company itself, we're kind of a multifaceted company where we encompass several scopes. We have framing, insulation, drywall, ceilings. We also do concrete, and then on top of that, we have property management that we do now. So we kind of have several things that we try to dive into. With a main focus on the framing, insulation, and drywall, and the ceilings. So that's the majority of the business, and the other two categories with the concrete and property management, they're slowly coming and catching up with the drywall and framing section. So,
and what I find unique about you guys is that you don't only just provide, you can be a general contractor, but you also can be a subcontractor and
Yes. Yeah. So, and that's one thing that, a lot of my clients like, because whenever they call me, they can say, hey, we need you to bid these scopes. And when I give them a package, I'm listing out 5 or 6 things, and then they're only dealing with one person. And I've heard that from a couple different of my clients. They just said it's nice to be able just to call you, and instead of having to call 3 other subs to figure out what's going on, or hey, what are we doing here, or time frames and things like that. It's just easier for them to call me, and I can handle it from there.
I know, just because we work together on different jobs, I know your core focus, you do a lot of commercial, but is there anything else you do? I mean, I guess you've done some industrial jobs too.
Yes. Yeah. So concrete wise and framing and insulation drywall. We've been on the industrial side. We've been on the commercial side. We also, we do build for some of the home builders. So if they call and they need us, and they're kind of in a bind, they need somebody to help them out, I'm always willing to try to get to them and try to help them out the best I can, because whenever I started, it was those guys, it was those home builders that they kind of got me going. They, got us to work, gave me time to build income, gave me time to find other clients. So, I try to stay as loyal as possible to those guys that really helped me out at the beginning, for sure.
So have you had a chance? I know that, especially when your company's growing, it's tough to have a plan, a long range plan. It's kind of like you plan year to year, but have you given much thought to that?
Yeah. You and I had spoke about that. And that was something that I really needed to look into. And mainly for me, I really want to take the steps, in the next 5 years. I really want to start taking the steps to become a general contractor, and doing what I need to do on that side, just as adding new scopes to the business, such as, footers, stem walls, excavation, hiring the right individuals that can lead that work out in the field for me. Just building the office staff. And then towards the end of that, I would really like to, which I think goes into a more long range time frame, but I would love to look into architects and engineers, and maybe get on that design build platform as well. Just because, like I said, I feel like that's where I want to be at. That's kind of the vision I have for the company. I love being a subcontractor. I love my clients, but at the end of the day, I want my company to be a general contractor. And I mean, when you hear general contractors, I mean, you're talking, you hear Messer and Denham and Blythe and Gray, and you hear these names, and that goes back to my competition side. It's not necessarily that saying that I'm in competition with them, but I'm in competition with, when somebody says a general contractor, I want my name to be in that hat. So that's definitely something that I'm trying to plan for and, move towards. And also even on the property management side, I have a goal of trying to hit 150 units on that side of the company. So, I've set some pretty high bars for the next 5 to 10 years for us. I think that we can meet those, but it's just a day by day, year by year, staying on the plan and just continue to move forward with it.
Have you had any, what's been the significant event that you've had up till now that's really kind of shaped your business model you have today?
Well, I think there was two factors, I guess. The first one, and you mentioned that competitive edge, but whenever I was speaking to people and really wanting to go out on my own and do something, I remember somebody telling me, "You don't know what you're doing," and I just remember the response I gave him. I said, "But I'll hire people that do," and that's been kind of my whole business model there, just to really understand that the people that you surround yourself with are very important. I really want to surround myself with people that are smarter than me out in the field, and I want to learn from them. Just like I was talking about the team concept, when you surround yourself with really intelligent and professional people in their trade, it just makes everyone better. I learn, they learn, and I feel like that just takes the company to that next level that we're trying to reach. So I think that's one thing that really shaped me, was just having those people saying that I couldn't do something, and I was bent to prove everybody wrong.
Well, one thing I'll give you credit for here is that everybody thinks in construction it's all about your technical knowledge, but the truth of the matter is how you treat people is more important than anything,
Yes, sir.
and you
Yes, sir.
and you have that figured out. So, and anybody who's met you would attest to that. So, except your wife, of course,
Yeah. Well,
so.
I don't think we need to say
that. What skills and ability do you think that you have that has helped your business?
Oh, definitely. Just I place a high, I guess, at the top of the list. I guess relationships. I really like people. I really like to get to know people. I like to know what what they like, what makes them like business. And so I feel like building relationships, that's one of my strong suits. Just to the part of the business, that's something that I bring to the table, I feel like. And then, like you said, with individuals, I respect everyone that's in this field. And I feel like mutual respect across the board is something that I place high on my list as well. And I feel like when you have that respect back and forth, that everybody works harder, we all do better. We want to do better for each other. Trying to push this company along, and standing behind my word. I feel like it has something that has helped us. I have made mistakes on projects, made good sized mistakes for sure. But when I went back to the client, I said, hey, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. Apologize for the mistake. We'll fix it. you know, and I always put my money where my mouth is, and you know, I stand behind my product. You know, mistakes do happen, but I think that's when you truly find out who you're doing business with, because, you know, a lot of contractors want to run away, especially smaller guys. You know, I don't want to ever want to be that guy that says, you know, well, I messed up, I'll talk to you later. You fix it. You know, I'm always going to be there and say, let's figure out how we can fix this and how we both can move forward. Because you can do 10 things right, but that one thing you do wrong haunts you forever.
And it's amazing. Something as simple as keeping your word is a really big deal, especially in our industry. And so few people actually will do that. And that's a good trait to have. Name the 5 key parts of your business that are your strengths, you think?
You know, wanting to do the best job we can. I think that's a huge thing. Communication. You know, I feel like that's one of the key things, and a lot of people drop communication, which, you know, at the beginning I was really, really good at, and then as things have grown, I found myself having to catch up as emails and text messages and phone calls come in. It's hard to answer and be present for everything. But I do feel like communication is a huge thing. The standing by my word, you know, whatever I tell people, that's what's going to happen. Confidence, the individuals in the field for sure. Just you know, making sure that the guys in the field are professional tradesmen. They know what they're doing. And then I would say the 5th one would be adapting. I feel like in the construction industry, you never know what's going to happen on a day-to-day. That's what I love about it. And there's always some kind of fire to put out, and you've got to adapt in the moment and try to understand what the situation is, how to fix the situation, and what's the time frame in doing that. So I would say those are the 5 biggest things.
What advice would you give to somebody? And this kind of ties into my last question, but I'll just ask it now. What personal advice and professional advice would you give to somebody that is like you, that's come up and decide they're going to open up their own company and go out there and do it, both from a personal level and from a professional level?
Well, I would say that, you know, it's so hard to understand, or it was for me anyways. It was hard for me to understand when to actually make that jump and when to go. I feel like that, you know, building your clientele is key. Having that good relationship with the builder. You know, I've always said that the crumbs from a rich man table are pretty good. So, you know, there's always that one big builder out there that a small guy can get with that can really kick off his company and get him started. And you know, just trying to understand when to go and not being afraid, because there is a risk there. And you know, young people, new owners, I feel like a lot of time fear drives them not to do something. And yes, there is risk and there is a fear there, but that's why not everyone wants to start a company. So my advice would be just to take your time, do your analysis, evaluate your clientele, try to do your best to predict on future jobs and what's coming up, and go at it as hard as you can. You know, there's a lot of hours, especially when you're trying to do everything by yourself and trying to get something off the ground. It's very difficult. It's very rewarding, but at the same time, it's extremely difficult. But I would say on the professional side, just understanding the people, from your accountants to your lawyers, and understanding contracts and scheduling and time management. You know, those are all the key aspects. And fortunately for me, you know, I have to give a lot of credit to the construction management program there at EKU. They taught me these things, and they helped me understand the importance of these items that, most people wouldn't get to know about, wouldn't get to have if they wouldn't have went through that program, unless they were in the field for, 5-10 years underneath a project manager that was really teaching them all these important aspects of construction.
What do you think, over your life, whether personal or professional, what have been some of your failures and successes?
So business-wise, I would say on the construction side is just understanding manpower, how much you can complete in a day's time, and how much you can't. That was a huge one. I'd say, and going along with that, employee management. For sure, that's been one of my failures, because learning to talk to people in a way that doesn't upset people, I guess, because you see an issue and you bring it to their attention, and learn that the way you say things and the tone you use and things like that, it really strikes people differently, and you have to understand how to read each employee and understand what to say to them directly, that you can say that's going to motivate them to fix that area that you kind of see that may be an issue for the company. Also, I would say contracts, not believing what everybody tells you. I've had some big companies promise me the world, and then they just it's like, hey man, where are we at? I've done my deal, but why haven't you kept up yours? So understanding the importance of having a signed contract, that was a big failure of mine. I did let people talk to me and talk me into doing things that I should have had wrote down on paper. And then, personally, just learning to turn off business at home. Owning my own business, it never stops. And a lot of people, they may not want to talk to me just because that's all I think about. That's all I want to talk about. It's just business and how to do better, how to improve. And that's on a daily basis for me, and 7 days a week. Turning that off and spending time with the family, and not focusing on business 24/7. That was definitely a personal failure. And then also, I guess, for the last thing is just seeing, trying to see and predict, see around the curve, I guess you would say, trying to predict into the future, even though I've got better at that, just seeing issues that's going to arise and how can we avoid them early. That just helps with the margins, that helps with scheduling. And then that separates contractors from others, because I feel like clients want to work with people that can see problems coming.
Absolutely.
That was some of my failures, I feel like.
Okay, now we're to the last stage here where we kind of do a 1 to 10 scale rating, and obviously 1 is the least important, 10 is the most important in your opinion. They could all be 10s, they could all be 1s. So don't think one takes away from the other. So first and foremost, scheduling.
I'd say on large projects, a 10 for sure. I believe scheduling will vary between projects. Smaller projects, yes, it's important. Schedule is always important. But when you get on these large projects, it is a must, and it's critical.
What about estimating?
10. That's that's your bread and butter. That's where you make your money. If you miss something, it can hurt you real bad on a large project. And I've heard a lot of guys, a lot of smaller contractors say that's why they don't go after the big bids, because the little ones, they know they're going to be safe. If they lose a little bit, it's not going to kill them. But you get on a large project and you lose 100,000 more, it definitely starts to hurt when you get on those. So estimating is right up there with scheduling.
What about contract administration?
Well, you said it was okay for 10, so I'm going to say a 10 on that as well. Having that contract and understanding that contract is very, very important. And so without being able to understand that contract for sure, you could get in a lot of trouble real quick.
Design.
Well, some of the things that I had seen is with the design, sometimes the design doesn't always work in the field. And sometimes the field and the engineer and the architect are all trying to figure out the best way to approach a certain problem. So design, in my opinion, I wouldn't give it a 10 just because I feel like confident contractors can come in, they can look at a plan and they can say, let's kind of talk about this, in a pre-construction or, in some meeting beforehand, before work ever begins, to try to get some of these issues ironed out. So, maybe an 8, 9, somewhere in there.
Administration,
still very important. I mean, you gotta have the people in the right areas. You have to have everything where it needs to be at. You got to have people directing where it needs to be. And just having those people, the right people in the right position, directing, I think is still, I'd say a 10 on that as well.
accounting.
Yeah, accounting, I would give a 10 for sure. That's something that I'm dealing with. My accounting skills have somewhat improved, but as your company grows, you have so you have bills coming in, you have people that have to get paid, you have monthly taxes, everything, just quarterly meetings with your accountant, just trying to make sure that everything is being tracked. Because if you don't know your numbers, as there's a commercial out there that says, if you don't know your numbers, you don't know your business. And I feel like that's true. You always got to know if you're winning or losing, so you can change and redirect to try to change a job from no profit to profitable. So accounting's huge.
What about selling work?
I mean, this is once again, I mean, without selling work, you're dead in the water. If you can't get people to trust you, and you can't get people to, understand who you are and understand your background, and understand that they can rely on you to be there when you tell them you're going to be there and do the work and stand behind the work, you're never going to make any money. So I definitely feel that selling work is right up there at the top. Once again, probably a 10.
And last but not least, leadership.
There's always got to be somebody directing the helm, that's for sure. You always have to have that guy out front that, is pushing everybody, that's trying to do this big dream, this big idea that everybody looks at and says, you're crazy, you're never going to meet that, you're never going to make it. I'm also starting to kind of learn the importance of a VP. Just having somebody there that can rein you in when you're way out in left field on something. Leadership is extremely important, but at the same time, you always got to have that good counterpart to you that can really rein you in when you're just out there in left field and you think you're going in a great direction, but it's an utter failure. Yes, leadership ranks right up there with the others. And like I said, having that other counterpart, whether it's a mentor, whether it's somebody that works with you, somebody that's your VP, you always got to have that person that can say, hey, man, you need to rethink this.
Well, I want to give you the last word to say anything you haven't had a chance to say yet. But before we go, I've known you for a while, and I've always known you had drive and ambition, and you have proved it. So it's there's some people who have this chip on their shoulder. They want to prove something to themselves, and I think that's a good quality to have. Some people don't think it's a good quality, but I think it's a good quality that it's not that they want to prove it to other people, they want to prove it to themselves, and that's a good quality you have. And you have one of the best interpersonal skills of anyone I know, and that pains me to say that. So, you
Oh,
you definitely know how to communicate well with people. You get it. You really do get it. So I've never met anybody who's met you to say, I don't like Blake. They never say that. So, uh, so,
until I walk away.
so, so I want to give you the
Uh,
last.
yeah, yeah. Really, I guess in this, and I know that this is a platform. It reaches a lot of people, and the only thing I want to say is, you know, I couldn't have done anything. Um, all of this would not have been possible without my Savior, Jesus Christ. He's been with me. He's leaded me and guided me through some of the craziest and toughest times. Scott, when you knew me when I started out in the construction management program, I had nothing. There was a lot of the guys. I remember I was driving a Toyota Yaris. I had paid just a couple $1,000s for that car, and I'd pull up on job sites, and it was hilarious. And I just couldn't wait till I had a job where I could finally get a truck and kind of fit in on the construction scene. But it's been humbling, and I owe it all to him. Everything I do is because of him, and it really kind of chokes me up. But I got to give him all the glory first and foremost, and then he let me meet you. You've been awesome, so I appreciate all you've done for me.
I I will. I'll make sure to forward that check to you to say those nice, kind words about me. And but no, I thank you. I thank you for the friendship, and I really, like I said, I consider you a friend, and I said it loosely, but I mean, I don't have that many friends. And
Oh
I'm.
well, I knew you didn't. So I knew I had to step up and just be there for you. So no,
Somebody has to be my.
no, but man, yeah, you were definitely a mentor for me back when I was in college, and like I said, man, you've been awesome to me. I appreciate everything you've done for me. I appreciate everything Ace has done for me. And this isn't a plug for Ace. I'm just saying from me, Blake Roberts, Ace Consulting, Scott Audius, and your family. You guys have truly been a blessing to me. So thank you all so much, and I appreciate the opportunity and your time and the invitation to be on this. So thank you again.
Well, on that note, we'll close out CONEXEC this week. Join us next week for another guest.